Imagine this, a quiet suburban neighborhood where the American dream hides a nightmare. Your family builds a secret bunker beneath your backyard for ultimate protection, but one nosy HOA drone buzzes in, uncovering everything. What happens when the Karen Queen of the cul-de-sac declares war on your hidden fortress? Stick around, because this story of surveillance, sabotage, and suburban showdown will leave you questioning every shadow in your own yard. You won't believe how it ends. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we expose the wildest HOA horrors and Karen chaos that keep us all up at night. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you never miss a tale of property pandemonium. And if you've got your own nightmare neighbor story, drop it in the comments below, we might feature it next. Alright, let's dive into this drone disaster that's got the whole block buzzing. It was a sweltering summer afternoon in Evergreen Estates, the kind of neighborhood where manicured lawns stretched like green carpets under the relentless Florida sun, and every mailbox matched in crisp white trim. The Andersons had called this place home for 5 years now, ever since Tom landed his engineering job at the aerospace firm downtown. Tom was the practical one, with calloused hands from tinkering in the garage and a mind always 3 steps ahead, sketching blueprints for gadgets that could one day save lives. His wife, Laura, balanced him out with her quiet determination. She ran a small online boutique selling handmade candles scented like forgotten summers, her fingers forever dusted in wax and spice. Their 2 kids, 12-year-old Mia with her wild curls and endless curiosity, and 9-year-old Jake, who collected rocks like they were treasures from another world, filled the house with laughter that echoed off the vaulted ceilings. But beneath that picture-perfect facade, the Andersons harbored a secret that could shatter their serene existence. A hidden bunker buried deep under their backyard, a fortress of steel and concrete, designed for the end of the world as they knew it. The idea had started innocently enough, born from Tom's late-night scrolls through news feeds filled with wildfires raging out west, floods swallowing coastal towns, and whispers of global tensions that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. "We need a plan B," he'd said one evening over dinner, his fork pausing midair as the kids chattered about school projects. Laura had nodded, her eyes reflecting the flicker of the candle on the table, not because she believed the apocalypse was imminent, but because she trusted Tom's instincts like she trusted the rhythm of her own breath. They weren't preppers in the tinfoil hat sense, no stockpiles of canned beans or camo gear cluttering the attic. This was pragmatic, a family insurance policy disguised as a weekend DIY project. Over months they dug in secrecy, renting a mini excavator under the guise of installing a backyard pond that never materialized. The hole yawned like a grave under the cover of moonless nights, soil piled in the far corner of the yard and redistributed bit by bit into the community compost bins to avoid suspicion. Neighbors waved from their decks, complimenting the landscaping refresh, oblivious to the rebar skeletons sinking into the earth. By the time the bunker took shape, it was a marvel of Tom's ingenuity. 12 feet underground, reinforced walls lined with waterproof membranes, an air filtration system jury-rigged from HVAC parts he'd salvaged, and solar panels camouflaged as garden trellises feeding a battery bank that hummed softly in the dark. Inside, shelves awaited essentials, non-perishables sourced from bulk stores, a water purifier humming like a faithful companion, medical kits stocked with bandages and antibiotics, even a small hydroponic setup for growing greens in the gloom. Mia had painted murals on the walls, whimsical scenes of starry skies and blooming meadows to chase away the claustrophobia, while Jake insisted on a corner for his rock collection, dubbing it the geological vault. Laura added touches of home-woven blankets, a battery-powered lantern that cast golden glows, and a stack of board games sealed in airtight bins. It wasn't fear that drove them. It was foresight, a quiet rebellion against the fragility of it all. They tested it once, slipping down the concealed hatch disguised as a tool shed floor, the ladder creaking under their weight as they descended into the cool embrace of their sanctuary. For an hour they played cards by lamplight, the world above fading to a distant hum and emerged renewed, sworn to secrecy. But Evergreen Estates wasn't a place for secrets. The Homeowners Association ruled with an iron fist wrapped in pastel covenants, their monthly meetings devolving into battlegrounds over fence heights and holiday light durations. At the helm was Evelyn Hargrove, the undisputed Karen of the cul-de-sac, a retired real estate agent whose bob haircut was as sharp as her tongue and whose smile never reached her eyes. Evelyn had clawed her way to HOA presidency 3 years prior, campaigning on promises of preserving our property values at all costs, which translated to fining families for unapproved bird feeders and patrolling sidewalks in her pearl-white SUV like a sheriff on steroids. Her husband, mild-mannered Carl, trailed in her wake, carrying clipboards and nodding along to her tirades. The Hargroves' home sat at the neighborhood's apex, a McMansion festooned with solar-powered security lights that pierced the night like accusatory fingers. Evelyn's latest obsession was aerial enforcement, a fancy way of saying she'd bought a fleet of drones with HOA funds, citing wildlife monitoring in the budget line item. In truth, those buzzing spies patrolled backyards for infractions, untrimmed hedges, visible trash bins, or, God forbid, a child's trampoline deemed an eyesore. Tom first noticed the drone on a Tuesday evening, the sky bruising purple as he grilled burgers on the patio. It was a sleek black thing, no bigger than a pizza box, hovering just beyond the fence line with a mechanical whir that set his teeth on edge. He paused, tongs in hand, squinting as its red light blinked like a cyclops eye scanning the yard. Probably just Hargrove's new toy, Laura murmured from the kitchen window, though her brow furrowed. Tom waved it off, flipping the patties with forced nonchalance, but the seed of unease took root. Over the next week, the sightings multiplied, the drone dipping low over the oak tree lingering near the tool shed, its shadow flitting across the grass like a harbinger. Mia spotted it from her bedroom window, sketching its shape in her notebook with frantic lines, whispering to Jake about the spy bird from the future. The kids took to calling it the Black Buzzard, a game to mask their growing jitters. But Tom lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, calculating angles and blind spots. He reinforced the camouflage the next day, draping the shed with climbing ivy pots that he'd nurtured in the greenhouse, their tendrils weaving a natural veil. The hatch mechanism, a hydraulic lift triggered by a hidden pedal, got a fresh coat of rust-proof paint to blend with the weathered wood. Still, the drone persisted, its flights more brazen, dipping closer until Tom could hear the faint click of its camera lens adjusting. One afternoon, as Laura hung laundry on the line, whites fluttering like surrender flags, the thing hovered mere feet away, its propellers stirring the sheets into a whirlwind. She froze, clothespin midway to the basket, heart pounding as the lens swiveled toward her. It lingered for an eternity, or so it felt, before veering off toward the Hargroves' side of the fence. That night, over a tense family dinner of spaghetti that cooled untouched, Tom voiced what they'd all been thinking. It's not random. Someone's targeting us. Laura's hand trembled as she passed the garlic bread, her mind racing through possibilities. The noise from the excavator months back, perhaps a neighbor's offhand comment about the big dig. Mia's eyes widened, fork forgotten, while Jake clutched his napkin like a shield. The breaking point came on a humid Saturday morning, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and impending rain. Tom was in the backyard, ostensibly weeding the flower beds, his trowel turning soil with deliberate slowness to mask his real task, checking the bunker's ventilation pipe, a discreet PVC extension buried under mulch. The drone appeared without warning, descending from the clouds like a dive bomber, its shadow eclipsing him as it banked sharply overhead. Tom shielded his eyes, cursing under his breath, but it was too late. The lens captured everything, the pipe's glint winking in the sunlight before the machine corrected course and zipped away. He stood there, dirt-caked hands clenched, a cold sweat breaking across his brow. Minutes later, his phone buzzed with a notification from the HOA portal, a violation notice for unauthorized subterranean excavation, time-stamped with a grainy photo of the pipe, circled in red. The fine was steep, $500, with the demand for immediate remediation. Tom's stomach twisted, they knew. Or at least they suspected. Word spread through the neighborhood grapevine like wildfire through dry grass. By lunch, texts pinged from sympathetic neighbors. The Millers down the street warning of Evelyn's drone witch hunt. The Patels across the way sharing blurry footage of the black buzzard in their own yard. But sympathy curdled into curiosity, whispers turning to sidelong glances as families mowed lawns with extra vigor, eyes darting toward the Anderson home. Laura fielded a call from her book club friend, voice laced with faux concern. Is everything okay over there? Evelyn's been talking about some structure. Tom buried himself in research, poring over covenants late into the night, The bunker's blueprints spread across the dining table like a war map. The documents were a labyrinth of legalese banning any alteration to the subsurface without prior approval, a clause buried in fine print that now loomed like a guillotine. He drafted an appeal, framing the bunker as a storm shelter compliant with county codes, attaching permits he'd quietly obtained months earlier from the building department, insurance against just this scenario. Evelyn's response was swift and venomous, a certified letter arriving Monday with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. It accused the Andersons of jeopardizing the aesthetic integrity of the community and demanded a full disclosure of the alleged shelter within 48 hours, threatening liens and legal action if unmet. The subtext screamed territorial conquest. Evelyn's domain challenged, her authority questioned by a family's private panic room. Tom met with the HOA board in the community center that week, a sterile room smelling of stale coffee and resentment, where Evelyn presided from a faux leather throne, her manicured nails tapping like metronomes of judgment. The other members shifted uncomfortably, retirees and young parents cowed by her charisma, but nodded along as she projected drone footage on a screen. The pipe circled again, zoomed in mercilessly. Tom presented his case calmly, permits in hand, emphasizing safety over subterfuge, but Evelyn's eyes narrowed, her voice dripping honeyed poison as she declared the structure non-conforming and voted it down on the spot. The meeting adjourned in murmurs, leaving Tom adrift in the parking lot, rain pattering on the asphalt like accusatory fingers. Back home, the family circled the wagons. Mia and Jake helped reinforce the hatch's lock, their small hands smudged with grease, turning the task into a fort-building adventure to stave off fear. Laura baked cookies that went uneaten, the kitchen a sanctuary of vanilla-scented normalcy. But the drone flights intensified, a daily ritual now circling the yard at dawn and dusk, its whir a psychological siege. One evening, as twilight bled into night, Tom watched from the upstairs window, binoculars pressed to the glass, and swore he saw Evelyn on her deck, remote in hand, directing the beast with a triumphant smirk. The violation notices piled up, fines for obstructed views, excessive foliage, each a nick in their resolve. Neighbors distanced themselves, invitations to barbecues drying up, the block's social fabric fraying around the Andersons' isolation. As the deadline loomed, Tom uncovered a chink in Evelyn's armor. Forum posts from disgruntled ex-residents decrying her drone misuse. Complaints to the State Aviation Board about unauthorized surveillance. He compiled a dossier, anonymous tips funneled through a burner email planting seeds of doubt. But Evelyn struck first, her SUV idling outside their driveway one morning, a contractor's truck in tow, workers spilling out with shovels and probes, authorized by the HOA to inspect the anomaly. Tom blocked the gate with his truck, engine rumbling in defiance as Laura called the sheriff's non-emergency line, voice steady despite the quake in her chest. The standoff stretched taut, neighbors peeking from curtains, the air electric with unspoken bets on who would blink. The workers retreated under threat of trespassing charges, but the message was clear. Evelyn wouldn't stop until the bunker was exposed, excavated and erased. That night, as thunder rumbled distant warnings, the family gathered in the living room, rain lashing the windows like an angry mob. Tom's face was etched with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with resolve. "We fight this," he said, voice low and fierce. "It's not just about the bunker, it's our home, our peace." Laura squeezed his hand. Mia sketched a battle plan with the drone as the villain, and Jake stacked his rocks into a tiny fortress on the coffee table. Outside, the black buzzard perched on a fence post, its light pulsing like a heartbeat, waiting for the storm to break. But deep underground, their secret pulsed stronger, a vein of steel in the earth's quiet heart, ready for whatever came next. And as the clock ticked toward confrontation, the Andersons wondered just how far one woman's vendetta would go to unearth their hidden world. The rain had barely cleared when Evelyn escalated, her next move a masterstroke of bureaucratic brutality that caught the Andersons off guard in the fragile dawn of a new week. It started with a knock at 7 a.m., sharp and insistent, pulling Tom from a fitful sleep where dreams of collapsing tunnels haunted him. On the doorstep stood a county inspector, clipboard in hand, badge glinting under the porch light. "Morning, sir. Got a complaint about potential structural hazards on the property. Mind if I take a look around? The words landed like a gut punch. Evelyn had looped in the authorities, framing the bunker as a safety risk that could compromise the aquifer or some such nonsense. Her drone footage doctored with ominous annotations highlighting sinkhole precursors. Tom stalled, offering coffee and small talk, his mind racing through escape clauses in the inspection protocols, but the man was thorough, pacing the yard with a ground-penetrating radar device rented on the HOA's dime. The needle twitched faintly over the tool shed, not enough to confirm, but sufficient to flag the site for further evaluation. By noon, the Andersons' inbox overflowed with official notices. A stop work order pending full engineering review, a hold on their property taxes until compliance, and worst of all, an invitation to a public hearing where Evelyn would present evidence to the county board. Laura's boutique orders stalled as she fielded calls from worried customers, her voice a mask of cheer while inside, panic clawed like vines. "They're turning our sanctuary into a spectacle," she confided to Tom that afternoon, folding laundry with mechanical precision, each sock a reminder of normalcy slipping away. The kids sensed the shift, Mia burying herself in books about underground cities, Jake's rock hunts veering toward the backyard's edges, probing for weak spots in the invisible war. Tom dove deeper into countermeasures, installing motion sensor floodlights around the perimeter and a white noise generator to mask any subterranean hums. But the psychological toll mounted, sleep fractured by the drone's nocturnal patrols, its silhouette a specter against the moon. Evelyn, emboldened, launched a charm offensive laced with barbs. She hosted an emergency neighborhood safety seminar in her cavernous living room, crystal punch bowls sweating condensation as attendees nibbled cheese platters and absorbed her slideshow of blurred images. The bunker's pipe circled in yellow, labeled unpermitted peril. Whispers rippled through the crowd, the Andersons as reckless outliers, their secret a threat to sinking foundations and plummeting values. Old alliances cracked. The Patels, once allies, abstained from the vote on escalation, their eyes downcast. Tom and Laura attended, sitting ramrod straight in folding chairs, as Evelyn's voice sliced the air. "We must protect our community from those who flout the rules for personal gain." Her gaze locked on them, a predator's gleam, while Carl passed out flyers demanding signatures for a petition to excavate and assess. The room buzzed with reluctant nods, the weight of conformity crushing dissent. Refusing to yield, Tom rallied his own front. He reached out to a former colleague, an environmental lawyer with a grudge against overzealous HOAs, who pored over the covenants and spotted the loophole. The drone footage violated privacy statutes under state wiretapping laws, captured on private property without consent. Armed with this, Tom filed a countercomplaint, anonymous at first, tipping off a local news blogger who thrived on suburbia scandals. The story broke online that Friday. A pixelated headline screaming, "HOA drone drama, neighbors spy on secret storm shelter?" Shares exploded, comments flooding with outrage and empathy, tales of similar harassments from viewers across the country. Suddenly, the Andersons weren't pariahs. They were poster children for the little guy versus the busybody empire. Evelyn's seminar attendance plummeted, her petition gathering dust as skeptics peeled away. But victory tasted bittersweet, laced with Evelyn's retaliation. She unleashed the full arsenal, anonymous reviews tanking Laura's boutique ratings, claims of structural noise prompting noise complaints at odd hours, even a petition to revoke the kids' playground access citing safety concerns from unstable grounds. The black buzzard evolved, upgraded with thermal imaging that pierced the night's veil, detecting the faint heat signature of the bunker's vents on cooler evenings. One such flight, captured on Tom's Ring camera, showed it hovering inches from the shed, props whipping leaves into frenzy, before retreating with a payload of high-res images. The next day, another fine arrived, for interfering with aerial monitoring equipment, a fabricated charge that reeked of desperation. The family adapted, turning inward for strength. They held bunker drills disguised as picnics, descending under starlit skies to recharge batteries and swap stories. The Earth's embrace a balm against the surface storm. Mia's murals gained defiant strokes, drones felled by lightning, bunkers blooming into gardens, and Jake's rocks formed barriers in his mind, unbreachable walls. Laura launched a blog, Suburban Strongholds, chronicling their saga without naming names, her words weaving vulnerability into armor, drawing a tribe of online supporters who donated to a legal fund. Tom, ever the engineer, rigged a drone jammer from scavenged parts, a low-power pulse that scrambled signals without breaking laws, buying them breaths of peace. As the public hearing dawned, gray skies mirroring the mood, the community center swelled with unexpected faces. Supporters from the blog, a smattering of reporters with notepads poised, even a county official looking harried. Evelyn arrived in armor, tailored suit pearls like talismans, flanked by her board lackeys, projector humming with fresh slides. Tom and Laura took the podium, voices steady as they unveiled the bunker's true purpose. Not a doomsday vault, but a haven born of love, permits in hand, compliant to the core. Gasps rippled as the lawyer dismantled the drone evidence, privacy breaches stacking like dominoes. Evelyn's face modeled her rebuttal a sputter of deflections, but the tide had turned. The board deliberated in whispers, emerging with a ruling. Violations dismissed, drone program suspended pending review, and a stern warning to the HOA against further overreach. Cheers erupted, backslaps and hugs from reclaimed neighbors. But as the Andersons stepped into the drizzle, Evelyn's glare burned from across the lot. Her lips curled in unspoken vow. The black buzzard lay grounded in her garage, but threats like hers didn't rust away. That night, as the family toasted with hot cocoa in the bunker's glow, Tom sealed a new vent with epoxy, Laura archived the blog posts, and the kids dreamed of unspied skies. Yet outside, the neighborhood slumbered uneasily. The war not won but paused, a fragile truce in the endless battle for hidden ground. And in the quiet hours, Tom wondered if Evelyn's next strike would burrow deeper, unearthing more than steel and secrets. The truce shattered like cheap glass under Evelyn's heel just 2 weeks later. Her fury fermented into a vendetta that burrowed into the Andersons' lives with surgical precision. It began subtly, a series of concerned citizen reports funneled through city channels. Allegations of groundwater contamination from the bunker's construction, whispers of unstable soil threatening adjacent properties. Inspectors returned, this time with geologists in tow, their probes jabbing the yard like acupuncture needles seeking confession. Tom met them at the gate, coffee in hand and smiles plastered, guiding tours that skirted the shed while extolling the eco-friendly pond project excuse. Readings came back clean, miraculously thanks to Tom's preemptive soil tests. But the visits drained time and sanity. Each one a reminder of eyes always watching. Evelyn, sidelined but seething, pivoted to social warfare. She infiltrated the neighborhood Facebook group, posting veiled screeds about selfish homeowners endangering us all, polls gauging support for community oversight enhancements. Comments polarized. Old friends defending the Andersons in heated threads, but trolls, Evelyn's sock puppets, Tom suspected, stirred the pot with doctored images of sinking driveways. Laura's blog surged in traffic, a double-edged sword that brought interview requests from podcasters hungry for drama, but also doxing attempts that had her scrubbing metadata from photos. The kids bore the brunt at school, Mia fielding whispers about her family's crazy basement, Jake trading rocks for recess isolation. "It's like we're the villains in our own comic," Mia sighed one evening, crayon snapping in her grip as she drew Evelyn as a dragon with propeller wings. Tom countered with alliances, hosting a backyard meetup under the guise of a block party, grills smoking with ribs and corn. Laughter a deliberate weapon against the chill. Neighbors trickled in, wary at first, but the food and Tom's easy charm thawed reservations. Stories flowed, Evelyn's past finds for a widow's wildflowers, her drone crashing into a kid's birthday piñata. And by dusk, a petition circulated for HOA reform, signatures inked on napkins. Evelyn crashed the tail-end SUV screeching to a halt, her entrance a whirlwind of accusations. "This is collusion. You're all complicit in code violations." The crowd parted, murmurs turning to jeers, Carl tugging her elbow as she flailed. She retreated in a huff, but the damage was done. Her isolation etched in the taillights fading down the street. Undeterred, Evelyn went nuclear, hiring a private investigator whose shadow lurked at the grocery store, tailing Tom to the hardware depot. The man was slick, mid-40s with a nondescript sedan and binoculars that caught the sun, compiling a dossier on the family's routines, Laura's boutique shipments, the kids' bus stops, even Tom's work commute. It culminated in a leaked report to the local paper, smearing the Andersons as paranoid preppers plotting against suburbia, complete with blurry drone shots and quotes from anonymous neighbors decrying the bunker as a molehill of mistrust. Circulation spiked. Headlines blaring bunker bust HOA versus Hidden Haven, turning their quiet life into tabloid fodder. Reporters camped the driveway, mics thrust like spears, questions probing for scandal. Is there more to this shelter? Weapons hoard? Laura shielded the kids with umbrellas, her boutique orders plummeting under boycott calls from Evelyn's loyalists. The family fortified, quite literally. Tom upgraded the bunker with biometric locks and a Faraday cage to block signals, transforming it from refuge to redoubt. They schooled at home for a week, lessons in the glow of LED strips, turning crisis into curriculum. Mia dissecting privacy laws, Jake mapping drone flight paths on graph paper. Laura pivoted her blog to a podcast, Echoes from Below. Episodes raw with their voices, resonating with listeners who'd faced their own Karens. Donations poured in, funding a pro bono attorney who shredded the investigator's report in court, citing harassment and defamation. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with a scar from hurricane cleanup, slapped Evelyn with a restraining order on surveillance, her gavel echoing like vindication. But Evelyn's final gambit slithered in the dead of night, a desperate bid to end it all. Alarms blared at 2 a.m., Tom's new system shrieking as motion sensors tripped near the shed. He bolted outside, flashlight cutting the dark, Laura close behind with a baseball bat gripped white-knuckled. There, under the shed's eaves, crouched a figure in black, Carl, Evelyn's hapless husband, drill in hand, whining against the lock like a burglar in a bad movie. The tool clattered as he startled, scrambling back with wide eyes. "She made me," said it was just to check the foundation, he stammered, face crumpling under the beam. Tom restrained him gently, calling the sheriff while Laura filmed the confession, the drone jammer pulsing faintly in the background. Dawn brought arrests, trespassing for Carl, conspiracy charges looming for Evelyn as evidence piled, emails plotting the break-in, drone logs timestamped to her IP. The HOA dissolved in scandal, an interim board vowing transparency, neighbors rallying with casseroles and apologies. The paper ran retractions, the blog morphed into a book deal, and the bunker. It stayed sealed, a testament not to fear but to family forged in fire. As leaves turned gold that fall, the Andersons hosted a real block party. No shadows lurking, the sky clear of buzzards. Tom grilled with ease. Laura laughed freely. Mia and Jake chased fireflies into twilight. Evergreen Estates breathed easier, secrets safe below, the ground solid underfoot. Yet in quiet moments Tom glanced skyward, ever vigilant, knowing some storms brew unseen, waiting to unearth what we've buried deepest. Whoa, can you believe that twist with Carl in the shed? If this HOA drone nightmare had you on the edge of your seat, give this video a massive thumbs up. Share it with your neighbor who's probably dealing with their own Karen, and subscribe for more unfiltered tales of property wars and suburban survival. Hit that notification bell, we drop new stories every week. Drop a comment. What's the craziest thing your HOA's ever done? See you in the next one. Stay vigilant out there.